before we start this video, I want to give a shout out to Theatre des Vampires. Thank you for the information. Absolutely fantastic. Let's start the show. Hello, I'm William James. I'm the host of The Board Book Geek. Like, subscribe and comments. Videos as and when. So, like I said at the very start of this video, Theatre des Vampires left a fantastic comment on the video. AMC interview with a vampire looks bad. Will this show be trash? And so far it's going to look trash. So I'm going to relay some key points from this, his comment. Because I'd read some of the leaks, and the video that you watched was about 2 weeks. I did that 2 weeks before it was public, so it kind of gives you an idea of the timeline, so I didn't know as much. So I'm recording this now on the 12th of April to give you the latest. So let's start, shall we? These are leaks directly from the casting call details and the crew and extras. The series is going to bear very little resemblance to the source material. It's going to be set in the early 1900s and goes between then and modern day. Louis is now a brothel owner. AMC were uncomfortable with the idea of keeping the plantation story, even though, as I mentioned in the original video, it is well documented that there were wealthy men of colour who owned slaves, and that could have made for an interesting diversion. In the present day, Louis has a companion, and lives in Dubai. Daniel is going to be an older gentleman who was heavy on drugs when he first interviewed Louis, so he's re-interviewing him again to get the real story. They've added a lot of new characters, and you won't see Armand until part 2 of the next season drop. They also decided to break interview into 2 seasons, which I think is ridiculous. They're going to be adding a lot of filler and a lot more characters. Claudia in the show will be in her early teens, which I agree with this guy completely negates her story. Yes, they can use an older child, but there's plenty of ways to make the child look younger, but I think they just want to be lazy. The bringing the timeline forward, I think messes things up. Lestat will no longer be a rock star, apparently, and I do understand the need for inclusion in this, and I agree with his comment, but when it's forced and doesn't come from a genuine place, it's just tokenism. And I think this show does, and I agree with him 100%, it's a mockery of Anne's work. Anne Rice is a phenomenal writer, despite what the SJWs on Goodreads write. Don't read reviews on Goodreads. This is just tokenism, and it is just trash. It's going to be trash. It's not going to be very good. And Anne wanted to start with the vampire Lestat for very good reasons. And as I said regarding the crossovers, because Interview and Lestat, Interview with a Vampire is one story, and then you have Vampire Lestat, which is the prequel, sequel, and midquel. You know, there's a lot of crossover, and you see events through Lestat's perspective, and Louis might not be the best narrator, might be the best honest person in that interview. It gets even more complicated. So, the show was at Paramount and then Hulu. Once those deals fell through, the rights reverted back to Anne. She sold them to AMC. That's when both Anne and Christopher become executive producers in name only. Anne's son, Christopher, was supposed to write the script for the show, but AMC fired him and got their own writers. Not altogether shocking, considering they've totally rewritten everything. They have taken this show and not just rewritten it, they're basically doing what they've done with a lot of stuff. They are making a show to make money. Or attempt to. They have characters, they have a pre-existing world, they don't have to world build, and they can, in their own heads, do whatever they want with it. This is not going to be a good show. This is not the Vampire Chronicles. This is nothing to do with them. This show is going to be trash, and it's going to be the wokest of the woke, inclusionary tokenism show, and I'm just seeing it now, and everyone that criticises it is going to get blamed and called a racist, because that's what they're going to do. And this is just a disaster. Now with Anne Rice dead, the floodgates have opened to a point that just make me so uncomfortable and so depressed by it all. They have no interest in the source material. They have no interest in her work. They have no interest in characterization or writing. They just want to make another gothy horror show, and it's going to be horrible. AMC do not have a good track record. And I mean that, and I know that's a controversial opinion, but AMC don't have a good track record. It's just, this is absurd, and the absurdity of this show is going to show when it flops. If this show is remotely successful, I will be shocked that it is. I think a lot of Anne Rice fans who are very passionate and love her work for reasons are disappointed. I am disappointed in this show. I am disappointed in what they're doing. They don't need to do this. They have the source material. Write the source material. But the red flag firing Christopher Rice basically tells me everything I need to know about this show. I have no hope for it, and any hope that I did have has withered and died like a vampire locked in a coffin for a century. This is just going to be a shit show. And I think it's just going to be a shock value horror TV show. At this point, the trailer, everything just looks bad, and the fact that this isn't Anne Rice's work tells me everything. So that's all I have to say on the subject. If you guys are interested, please leave comments below. And I do get adaptation. I do understand adaptation, but there's adaptation versus let's write an original story using someone else's characters. So I will talk to you guys later.